Shut up. Hell, you know that ain't true.
At that time, I had already written When the Revolution Comes, and I said, when the revolution comes, you know, someone will probably catch it on TV with chicken hanging from our mouths. You'll know it's revolution because there won't be no commercials. And Gil Scott took it to the next level. He said, the revolution will not be televised.
The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions.
We wrote it as a piece of satire. Watching television would not accomplish anything, but the change that we were looking for was going to take place in their mind, not on the television sets.
The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
The results from that gave Brian and I the opportunity to record Pieces of a Man.
That he was only talking to pieces of a man.
I was absolutely in awe of Bob Thiel, because Bob Thiel, after all, was the man who had produced a lot of the John Coltrane sessions for Impulse.
Or could you call on Lady Day? Could you call on John Coltrane? Now, 'cause they'll wash your troubles, your troubles, your troubles, troubles away.
He says to me, well, who do you want? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he says, well, like, what musicians do you want on this? Tongue in cheek, I say, okay, well, you know, I want Ron Carter, and, you know, I want Hubert Laws, and this one and that one. Well, he calls back in a few days and he says, okay, I got these guys, you ready to go? And I was like, oh God, now what did I do?
Be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials, because the revolution will not be televised.
You could dance on the dance floor and, you know, kind of miss a couple of the words. When you sat down and read them, they had the kind of resonance that, you know, is really poetry as much as it is song or just song lyrics.
The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abramson, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised.
I was pretty much amazed that somebody was able to compress and compact so much imagery and so much ideology of cultural nationalism, you know, into such a witty kind of pop single.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
Revolution was definitely an idea that was in the air. The idea that there was an imminent black revolution was certainly not only in the minds of Gil's generation, but certainly in the minds of the FBI as well, which is why they created their counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO.
So when there was a movement afoot to bring about change, they had to have infiltrators. They had to have people come in.
The counterintelligence program being able to infiltrate black communities with a over excessive amount of drugs. All of a sudden it was everywhere. In the black community. You couldn't find it anywhere in the white community, but you find it everywhere in the black community.
Many of us were feeling like we were being watched.
Hell, I would have monitored me if I was them. I mean, we were making some sense. But what do you do? Stop?
He probably underwent as much surveillance as certainly any public speaker in that time. Because, I mean, he's really functioning as, you know, musical prophet, poet, you know, but also activist at the same time.
Ain't it nice to fly you waving as soft clouds go by, but peace won't be still of its own free will.
By the time we had done Free Will and finished Free Will, we had a pretty good idea of what production was and thought maybe we should try it for ourselves. And so the next album we did was Winter in America, and it was our first production.
And from the Indians, welcome to Pueblo, and for the buffalo, once rule a plain. Like the vultures, circling beneath the dark clouds, looking for the rain. Yeah,
remember hearing it and thinking this was something that related not only to the people, you know, who had been listening when he wrote it in the 70s, but this was, you know, the mid-1990s, and a generation later, the same kinds of political messages applied.
It seemed like a winter in America. The truth is there ain't nobody fighting because, well, nobody knows what to save. The sisters save the babies. Yes, winter in America.
Winter in America is definitely one of the pieces that I treasure, because he says no one knows what to fight for because no one knows what to save.
It was just a statement that Brian and I wanted to make, a thing that we wanted to do for us as well as for other people.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro.
A lot of times when Gil would write a song, he would maybe need me to arrange it. And sometimes the song was like so perfect the way it was, like for instance, The Bottle. I wouldn't even think about revoicing it. I wouldn't even think about changing anything to it.
See that black boy over there running scared. This old man in the bottom. Well, now, he done quit his 9 to 5. He drinks full time. Now he's hanging in the bottom.
I just thought it was perfect the way it was.
See that black boy over there running scared. This old man got a problem. Who's his news? He done bought on damn near everything. His old woman waiting for bottle.
If you go out dancing and the DJ doesn't play The Bottle, sometime during that night, as they've told me, he's whack.
Of course, In the Bottle was a big deal, and that was the only hit that was heard on the radio often. It was a very important piece because it's relevant then, it's relevant now.
But don't you think it's a crime? Get away. Time after time after time, people in the bottom.
I first heard about Gil Scott-Heron in about 1975.
Gil was the first artist to have signed with Arista. And I think Barry Manilow was second, and then Melissa Manchester. Hey, go figure.
I always felt that Gil could have a commercial career that would be born in the art, would be born in his art, would come obviously from his fire, from his passion, from the incredible power of his poetry and his pen.
Yes, and all I really want to say is that the problems come and go, but the sunshine seems to stay.
I think Clive Davis had probably heard about us after The Bottle. I think he always wished that we would do another bottle. Maybe he thought that we would do 10 bottles.
The frustration that I had is that I saw this future that would be larger in commercial sales than what he had been enjoying.
And just look around, I think we found a lovely day.
He really had a very specific idea of how each of his pieces of material would be recorded, and we were true to it.
Because I don't feel like believing everything I do gonna turn out wrong. Or when the vibrations I'm receiving say, hold on, brother, just you be strong.
What Gil and Brian Jackson and the Midnight Band were doing was so distinct. You know what I mean? Like, their way of, you know, putting together a groove or putting together a song, you know what I mean, definitely stood out.
And everybody got a pistol. Everybody got a 45, 38, 22, warning you. Philosophy seem to be at least as near as I can see. When other folks give up theirs, I give up mine.
There were elements afloat in Gil's music that maybe weren't necessarily so pronounced in others, you know, in terms of percussion, the politics, and, you know, the